Welcome to Inspired Living with Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Every Wednesday, Marc, along with his special guests, will explore thought-provoking topics and ideas that promote creativity, self-help, healing, happiness, and well-being to inspire you on your spiritual journey. Each week, Marc will discuss different paths to achieving a more spiritual, balanced, happy, and healthy lifestyle. Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual. Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. Marc is a tested, certified, and professional spiritual medium, metaphysical teacher, healer, and spiritual advisor with a spiritual practice based in Seattle, Washington. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
And hello. You are the inspired in the inspiration. So let's be inspired, let's inspire others, and let's inspire before we expire. Welcome to Inspired Living, where every moment is an opportunity to ignite your passion and curiosities and embrace the many mysteries, phenomenons, the unknown, the ordinary, and yes, the extraordinary. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here with you yet again for what I like to call soul adventures and an inspiring episode to explore, discuss, and discover the many diamonds within each and every one of us and the many hidden gems that have yet to be revealed to us and the rest of the world. I'm thrilled to have you join us today as we embark on a journey of inspiration, motivation, and transformation. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home, find yourself on the road, or wherever life takes you, this show is designed to uplift your spirit and empower your dreams. Inspired Living is all about fostering a supportive and empowering community, and you'll find that each episode will highlight incredible guests like the one we have today who have overcome challenges, pursued their passions, and make a positive impact in their respected fields in our amazing and beautiful world. The journey matters, and we want to celebrate your victories, no matter how big or how small, and together we can cultivate a mindset of possibility and unlock the doors to our dreams. Inspired listeners can expect engaging discussions, thought-provoking questions, and actionable steps to manifest inspiration into your life and into your reality. Of course, I always give a big shout out and say thank you to all of our inspired listeners from around the globe, the universe, and yes, beyond. The team and I are always so very humbled and grateful for you listening, downloading, subscribing, leaving reviews, and voting to make Inspired Living a best inspirational show and a best spiritual show to follow and listen to as referenced by FeedSpot. So we really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you. Keep it up. We love it. And our one of our pages on our social media platforms is about to hit 3,000 inspired listeners. And I know that may not sound like a lot, but when you start with one person, 10 seasons ago, 3,000 is a lot of people to me. So I just want to let you know how grateful I am and appreciative of you. If you've not yet subscribed, liked, or followed the show, there's always time to do so over on our main social media platforms. Over at Facebook, just look for Inspired Living. Instagram, Blue Sky, and X, formerly known as Twitter, just look for Inspired For Us. That is the number 4, Inspired For Us. And of course, you can always follow us on our YouTube channel, Inspired Living, and we are now streaming through Audible or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. So let's get ready to be inspired, uplifted, encouraged, and motivated, because I always like to say the best is always yet to come. So let's go prospecting together, shall we? And today, our special guest is joining us. She's a first-time guest to the show. She's an international speaker, a mental health expert, author, and speaking coach, Dr. Kristen Guillory, who has spent nearly 20 years inspiring audiences. The Dr. Kristen Guillory Signature Speaking Coaching Certification Program, say that 3 times fast, is rooted in authenticity, healing, freedom, and in financial empowerment. And who doesn't want that in their life? The program equips coaches to help speakers unmute powerful voices, reject code switching, and craft talks that truly transform. Dr. Guillory is deeply committed to creating legacy, amplifying diverse voices, and fostering a new generation of speakers who lead with authenticity and impact. She's been featured on NBC, Fox, CBS affiliates, and Forbes, and is an international speaker, 2-time author, mental health professional, and transformational speaking coach for over 20 years. She has inspired nearly 1 million people through her keynotes, her books, her coaching, and signature events. In 2018, she expanded her impact as a speaking coach, equipping thousands of voices worldwide through boot camps, retreats, and her signature programs. Like I said, she is the creator of the Dr. Kristen Guillory Signature Speaking Coaching Certification Program But what's great is she is making history as the first Black woman to launch a licensed speaker coaching certificate program of its kind. So congratulations on that. Known for her engaging style, blending storytelling, humor, music, and vulnerability, Dr. Guillory has spoken more than 1,500 times at leading organizations including Walmart, AT&T, Harvard, Ford, TCU, the Urban League, and numerous schools, churches, and nonprofits. With 85% of her engagements coming through referrals and a 90% rebooking rate, she believes authentic storytelling is the key to creating impact and opportunity. Beyond her professional achievements, Dr. Guillory is a proud aunt, a believer in rest and self-care, and a lover of the ocean and dance. She continues to break barriers, normalize joy, and champion freedom, reminding us, especially the inspired listening audience today, reminding audiences everywhere that authenticity is power. And Dr. Guillory, I just want to open up with your quote that you had on your website that says, quote, "Keep shining. If your light is too bright, tell them to put their shades on." Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And if you need some shades, I have some for you. Okay.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I just came back. This is the first show back. I was out of country in a beautiful country called Portugal. You may have heard of it, and got a lot of sun over there. So, and they're just an amazing country. And I'll give an inspired listening shout out to the country and the people of Portugal, because wow, just an awesome country, very friendly, great wine, great food, great beaches. Just what a wonderful experience. So I'm refreshed and ready to go with this episode. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started with all this.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having me, and congratulations on 3,000 followers on Instagram. That is a big deal. That is a big deal.
Thank you.
And I'll be in Portugal myself as well in November. So good to hear that you had an amazing time. How did I get started in this? Very long story short, I was defending my dissertation 20 years ago, and included in my dissertation, the topic was school completion and dropout factors among African American males. And all I did, I included a couple of pictures of young men that I had supported, and really that was it. At the end of my defense, one of my committee members said, "You need to do this." And I said, "Do what? I'd like to pass my defense today." "Do what?" And she said, you need to take this and speak, because this was amazing. And I remember thinking, I didn't really do anything except present research and include one or two personal stories. And fast forward, I was invited to speak to about 300 students at a high school in Dallas, Texas, as I was tutoring the teacher. And she just learned about me. She said, "Wait, how old are you again?" And at that time, I was maybe 25. And she said, "Wait, you're working on your doctorate?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Our students need to meet you. You're a young Black woman, and they need to meet you." And opportunities just continued like that. I never sought out to be a speaker, okay? Never. This was never a dream or a goal or to be a speaker coach. I just continued to get invitations, and people continued to reach out and thank me for my vulnerability or thank me for my energy, even if the story I shared was not exactly the person's story. They always were grateful for that authenticity. What I learned was my vulnerability allowed other people to be vulnerable, and we don't even have to have the same story to have a heart connection and impact, and that is how it started.
I love that. And again, thank you for what you're doing. It's very in line with what I'm doing. If you would have asked me, 2 decades ago that I'd be doing a show and doing the work that I do and the spiritual pathways of the work that I do, I would have said I would have never imagined myself doing that. But again, many times from our background and our past and our learned behaviors, many times when the student is ready, the teacher appears and allows us to move into those opportunities, because you always have free will and choice, right? You could have said no to speaking in front of that high school, but something inside you drove you to say, I want to share my story. And I love your bio in the fact that you're all about storytelling, which I think is a big part of what we need more in today's society, and being authentic, showing up to your authentic self. And that's what this show is also about. Now, what did you get your doctorate in, if I could ask?
Absolutely, in social work and statistics.
Social work and statistics, great. So you've got data to help tell the story, social work, which I always say we need more teachers, social workers, nurses, and doctors, especially with our society. And so again, thank you for what you do, and thank you for this program. and inspired to create this new speaking program. So you're the first to create this coaching certificate. I tried to say it. Hopefully, I said it correctly. I'm not going to say it 3 times fast because it's a long. But congratulations on being the first to create it, especially as a Black woman. So I just want to commend you for that. And let's talk about public speaking, because you want to redefine public speaking, and that's really what we put today's topic as. Because people hear about public speaking and they get nervous. I can't stand up in front, stage fright. The list goes on and on, myself included. When I'm getting ready to speak, even before a podcast, I sometimes get nervous, but I'm always reminded to get my butterflies flying in formation, right? Get those butterflies active, because that's the energy to tell a story or to inspire others or to teach others. So tell us about public speaking and redefining public speaking and your viewpoint and your program and what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. And thank you for the congratulations on the speaker certification program. I really appreciate that. And I too, I listen, yes, I've spoken 1,500 times or more. I still get nervous. And I tell my clients and tell people I know, and similar to what you just said about the butterflies, for me, getting nervous is indication that what I'm doing is important to me. And for me,
Exactly.
if I ever go into a space and I don't have a little bit of nervousness, that's indication that either I'm walking in a little too cocky or I didn't pray. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know I call it, I think I'm smelling myself a little bit. And so we need to come down, dial it down, and humble yourself if I don't have a little bit of nervousness in there. And I think one of the reasons, because public speaking is still the number one fear that people have. And part of my theory with it is, I think one of the reasons people are so nervous about public speaking is subconsciously, I think, people think that they have to become somebody else on stage that's not authentically them. So it's maybe offline, you're talking to a friend, what's up, Stephen? What's up, friend? Kind of like that. But you think that when you get on stage, you have to change what you speak like. And good morning, everyone. That is not how you talk. So why did you just change who you are when you got on stage? Because when people are having one-on-one conversations, I know it's different. I know it's not everybody, 100 people in front of you, but I think that's one of the reasons is we think that we have to change who we are. The other part of it is subconsciously, a lot of people, and I have a book that I titled Look, Stop Hiding, How to Find Your Voice and Never Dim Your Light Again. And that was dedicated to my clients because 95% of my amazing speaker coaching clients did not realize how amazing and valuable and gifted they were. I was like, wait a minute, what is going on? And that continued to happen. And so in terms of story, in terms of authenticity, just on this journey, literally is telling people, you are enough. Your story is so valuable. I do not worry about the technical aspect of speaking as much as others. Yes, we need to make sure content makes sense and flow and all that stuff. I don't care about filler words. I don't care about ums and all that stuff, because when people are comfortable with their story or comfortable enough, those go away. And so we spend time ensuring that, is this authentically you? Is your heart in this? There is a quote that is, data changes minds, stories change hearts. And so much time we spend on, does it sound perfect? Is the statistic perfect? And we need that. But it's like who you are is enough. And the final thing I'll say on this piece is, I'm sure like you, like me, the gifts that make people continue to book me over and over and over, this is a secret. As I say, I have a confession, like Usher, the singer, would say. It has nothing to do with my degrees. Like literally, the gifts that I've been blessed with have nothing to do with my degrees. I've always been someone who's had a voice for people since I was in the 4th grade. I've always just had this heart to genuinely see and want to help people. And sometimes I wish I could turn it off. Sometimes I wish I could turn off the care, but I can't. And when I work with these amazing people, it's literally, hey, that gift that's always been in you, let's highlight that. Or you are a spoken word artist. Why are you putting that to the side? You don't have to separate that as a speaker. Include all of you on stage, because you're curating an experience for your audience, and it starts with you.
I love that. Thank you for sharing so many diamonds in all of those words that you just shared with the listening audience. And I agree with you. I think that I feel like we're very like-minded. My sister from another mister, if you will. And
Yes.
it's being about being in service and showing up to that your authentic self. And you're right. In today's age, there's a lot of fear of failure, right? And I always remind my students and my listening audience that failure is first attempt in learning. To use that acronym. And you're right. If you get that, if that nervousness before you speak, whether it's here on a podcast or in front of a listening audience of 3,000, embrace that energy. And I, like I said, I always get your butterflies flying in formation, because there's something energetically powerful about that. And once that nervousness goes away, then maybe, and I have the same mindset, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. If I'm not inspired, if I'm not nervous, if um, I loved how you talked about being humble. That's actually one of my mantras, because I've learned it time and time again of my 50 plus years on this planet, of be humble or get humbled. And so I approach the same thing in everything I do, is trying to be humble, knowing that, yeah, I'm going to fail. But again, that's the first attempt in learning. And I think this is a good time for the listening audience. If you want to learn more about Dr. Kristen Guillory, you can go to her website. It's KristenGuillory.com. You can also go to our social media platforms, where we have her bio and her website and her story listed out. If you want to click through the website or through the social media platforms, feel free to do that. And for you, my friend, I love that you worked hard to get your education, because I do think that education is important too, right? And I know you said your education has nothing to do with, and I resonate, because I have 2 degrees myself, an undergrad, a graduate, and studied at Stanford. But what I do today has nothing to do with my education, which I find fascinating. But I still think that higher education, for the listening audience, helps shift your perspective and makes you a more well-rounded person. It gives you that higher, broader way of thinking, critical thinking. And I know you specialize in mental health as well, which is very important in today's society. But we need more people like you to be in service, to champion, people to be themselves and define themselves, right? There's a big spiritual concept that we talk about all the time, to know thyself. And I think what you're doing is brilliant and beautiful, and keep it up. And I'm just honored to have you on today's show. So thank you.
Oh, thank
And
you.
again, if you want to learn more about Dr. Kristen Guillory, go to KristenGuillory.com. And now I want to get into some questions for you. So we talked about redefining public speaking, and you've mentioned that most speaking systems weren't created for Black women or people speaking from lived experience. Dive into that a little bit more for my listening audience. Expand on that, please.
Absolutely. And so the majority of my clients are Black women. I've supported everyone, and it's not so much not created for the lived experience. It's most of the frameworks, from my experience, weren't created to highlight a heart connection. Most frameworks and ways, whether speech class or whether other systems people are taking, it's very technical, but it dismisses people's essence. It dismisses, as I like to say, dismisses my sauce. It dismisses my flavor. It dismisses parts of my culture. It just dismisses me when I have to come on and present a watered down version of myself. And I didn't recognize this until I began working with all these amazingly brilliant people. And I'll give you an example. I was working with a woman, and she works in corporate America in corporate real estate. And she had an opportunity to be a part of a panel, and she was telling me what she was going to do, and she was nervous because it was on diversity, and she was going to be the only Black woman. And I said, okay, well, what are you going to talk about? And she said, I want to talk about this and this. And I said, okay, well, take me back to high school. Tell me about that. She said, well, high school, I didn't have a lot of friends, so I was peeping the scene, trying to find out who my friends are. I said, pause. I need you to say that when you're on stage. She said, say what? I said, peeping the scene. She said, oh, Dr. Guillory, whoa, that's not professional corporate talk. I said, but is it you? Is that language that you use? And she said, yes. I said, say that. People will understand context clues. Then I said, well, what did you find? She said, oh, I found a group that I loved, and it was a step routine. And I started stepping, and there was this hip-hop artist I loved. I said, great. I need you to incorporate lyrics from a favorite song, and I need you to give people a little taste of a step routine. She began to cry. And I said, what? Wait a minute. I said, what's going on? She said, I never knew that I could incorporate all of me in a professional setting. I'm overwhelmed. And that's all it was. So multiply that by at least 1,000 conversations I've had with people, whether a client is a vocalist as well, or they have a lot of knowledge on nervous system work. incorporate that. And so it just time after time, I would see my clients on stage and say, who in the world was that? I had one client in the beginning of my journey as a speaker coach, and I said, tell me who you are. Tell me. And she said, okay, well, I'm this and this. I said, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. That is not who you are. Tell me who you are. And she said, Dr. Guillory, I think I've been code switching so much, I have forgotten who I am. I need you to help me. And those types of things, and not just Black women in truth, but those types of things continue to come up time after time after time. And I was like, ooh, wait a minute. How can we allow you to share your amazing information, your amazing story, while showing up as you? And showing up as you is actually healing and freedom and liberation. Listen, I didn't know all these benefits were a part of speaker coaching, and I'm grateful.
Right. And you're right. There's coaching and then there's over coaching, and that can be applied to many different sectors, from public speaking to sports. That you're over coached, that you get to the point where you don't know how to be or how to perform or what you're supposed to do because there's so much confusion on, and so I like that approach of what you're trying to do for your clients. And given this day and age, a lot of things that we can be said have been, can always get twisted or, perspective. How do you deal with that as a public speaker in your coaching ability? How do you help people? Because I'm finding that there's more and more people that don't want to speak because they're worried about the trolls or the backlash of what people are going to say, or do on social media platforms. How do you bring that in today's reality of what we're seeing with communications in today's society?
Great question. The first part of it is that thought or that fear is real. That is a real feeling. And a question would be, do you believe that you are in a place of being healed enough to take if someone does not agree? Because some may not, and that's the truth. Some may say, ooh, so I'll tell you this, one of my clients who just graduated from the certification program, she is a fitness expert and meal prep extraordinaire and used to train in higher ed. Her main topic right now is she was Christian for her entire life. About 9 years ago, she decided pursuing other beliefs and other faiths and just saying, this is what happened to me, and God has to be bigger than 66 books in the Bible. And she was so nervous about leading that publicly. And the group that she was in, the majority of the clients in my coaching program are Christian. Everybody in the group said, do that talk. Do that talk. Oh my gosh, it's needed. And I am so proud of her because she didn't. She was so nervous. What are people going to say? People are going to judge me. And at the graduation, they all got 3 minutes to share whatever they wanted to share. She chose to use those 3 minutes to share that talk. And while she was nervous, she did it and had so many people who came up to her and said, thank you for what you said. Thank you for your courage. Even if I don't agree with you, it's okay. So it's one of those, are you in a place where you believe you're healed enough to share? And do you believe in the message enough where if people disagree with you, that's okay? Because here's the truth. People are disagreeing with us all the time. We just don't know. The difference now will be the social media platform, and they're talking about you anyway. So even for me, I have been hesitant on posting things at times. I will say them at speaking engagements and coaching sessions, but publicly, I sometimes think about, oh my gosh, what if people disagree with me? And there is a colleague of mine by the name, he's a colleague of mine, fairly well known, and I always think about him. I think about him because he gets comments that are just ridiculous and kind of crazy and rude, and I think, and he keeps showing up authentically as him because what he knows he's doing is necessary. And so I actually am inspired by somebody I know where I'm like, you know what? This message is more powerful and more needed than the people who may not disagree, or who may disagree, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and again, thank you for sharing that coaching tip. Just for the fact, I've experienced it myself, being a public figure, being in the social media worlds. I think we're as a human species, we're working and evolving through our social media technology platforms. I always say that I'm BC, before computers, so I know the world before computers technology, and now I see the world with the technology. But you're right, even before social media, everybody has an opinion, right? I always say they're like eyebrows and elbows, and almost everybody has an opinion. I can't remember if it was Plato or Aristotle, but they talked about the only way you're not going to get judged in life is by not doing anything, saying anything, or being anything. So for you listeners out there, show up to life, be your authentic self. Go out, and I always say be kind, caring, and compassionate. And get in this public speaking program with our guest today, because I think you can glean a lot from her teaching and her education and her life experience. We're going to go to our one and only break of the show. And when we come back, Dr. Guillory, I have some more questions about the program and, beyond speaking, the impact, and some, I know that you have more advice and diamonds to share with all of us. So we're going to go to our break. And then when we return, we're going to pick up the conversation with our special guest today, Dr. Kristen Guillory, in her coaching program. You are listening to Inspired Living. We'll be right back.
The future of internet radio is here. Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
One planet, 7.3 billion people. Only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream. Dare to explore. Dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Inspired Living. Our special guest today, Dr. Kristen Guillory. She's an international speaker, mental health expert, author, and has spent the last 20 years of her journey and soul adventure inspired audiences. And I have no doubt she's inspiring you today here on Inspired Living. If you want to learn more about her, you can go to our social media platforms and get the link, or you can go to KristenGuillory.com. Welcome back, my friend, and let's continue this awesome interview that we're doing with you, and let's talk about your program. Before the break, you were talking about redefining public speaking and how to expand on the program challenges, those traditional frameworks, including what you say in today's age and through social media. But talk about, I loved the part of your program about the authenticity and the freedom, and how you emphasize that authenticity and that healing. And you talked about rejecting code switching. Break that down for my listening audience, what you mean by that.
Absolutely. So code switching is when we believe we have to change who we are to assimilate or to adapt to the particular environment. And a lot of times it is leaning into what we believe is the most professional sound because, oh no, my voice sounds a certain way, or I use slang from time to time, or I do this, so I have to change to this. And for me, it's rejecting code switching. It's rejecting that you don't have to switch and change who you are, because who you are is absolutely powerful and enough. And unfortunately, a lot of Black people, a lot of maybe even women, and people in general have thought, I have to code switch. I have to be a certain way at work. I can't be, a woman may feel, I can't come across, quote unquote, too assertive because people may think this of me. So I need to come across a little bit more demure. Whatever it is, it's wait a minute. Ooh, that is exhausting. So first of all, code switching is taxing on our mental health. Okay. So I'm sure everybody probably has code switched in some way, whether it's going to visit family and, I need to change who I am. And so part of the experience when I get to work with these amazing people is we start with, you don't have to change who you are. And how we do that is what I'll give you an example. I'll talk to them about, well, tell me the story. Tell me the story that connects to your I recognize statement. The I recognize statement is my version of an elevator pitch that I teach my clients to concisely frame the message. So it's target audience, it's problem you want to address, it's solution, it's and how you are the one to talk about this. So I'll say, okay, there's your problem, there's the audience. Tell me your story. And as they tell it to me, I'll say, okay, I want you to say it like that. All right? I want you to do just like that. And what happens is it feels too easy because they're like, wait a minute, I can literally just be myself. Yes, that is it. Yes. I'm like, I know it's going to feel crazy because you have been hiding who you are for so many years, and the freedom in it. What I did not know, my friend, what I did not know is at the start of this journey that it would be healing. Because one of my gifts, similar to you, that's why when I was learning more about you, I was like, oh, we have some commonalities here. Okay.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
We do. One of my gifts that I've had for years is I have an ability to be a catalyst for healing. I have an ability to heal wounds. I have an ability to, as people say, I have the eyes that can see into your soul. And people sometimes don't look at me in my eyes because they're like, nope, because you're going to read me. I'm like, no, I'm not. So anyway, because I have this gift to help people heal and I can see people, when I started speaker coaching, just in truth, in one of my journaling and prayer moments, I was praying and said, okay, Lord, you've given me this gift to help people heal, but it's speaker coaching. This is not healing work, until I sat back and said, oh, but yes, it is. This is absolutely healing when someone is now showing up authentically as themselves. It's healing, it's freeing, it's liberation, it's joy. I mean, it's so much more than I would have ever thought, just by helping people know that who they are is absolutely enough. I've had clients say, my children have noticed a difference in me because of working with you. So I believe in celebration. That's why I would love when you celebrated your 3,000 followers. I have a client who said, my children are now seeing me celebrate, and they've never seen that happen. And that's changing the whole dynamic of my house. And I thought, oh, this is way more than putting a talk together. This is freedom, healing, authenticity.
And I love that. And, it's interesting because you talked about the code switching and, when you step outside of the United States, I actually see a lot of, in different countries that I've been to, I see now that I've put this together about the code switching of people, of how they act in society or behave in society. Maybe it's, it's driven by cultural norms based on that country that you're in, but then behind closed doors, a little bit different, right? So that made a lot of sense for the code switching. So thank you for sharing that with me and the listening audience, because I just came from out of country, and so I saw a lot of code switching. I would even say I was doing a little code switching being in the beautiful country of Portugal. And we'll have to talk after the show because I can give you some great tips if you've never been there before. I was there for almost over 3 weeks. And I even myself would code switch and say, people would say, well, where are you from? I'd be like, oh, we're from Canada. We're our sister city, Vancouver. We're not from the United States. So, even myself doing a little code switching based on, outside perspectives of being in a different country. So that makes a lot of sense. And, you're right. You talk about, to know thyself that we're talking about in this episode. And, you use the word, crazy, but I also would say uncomfortable, to know thyself, to get to this path of what you do today. Didn't come easy. There was probably times that you're like, what am I doing? Am I crazy? I'm very uncomfortable. But for the listening audience out there, embrace that uncomfortability, because that is where you're going to learn, grow, and heal and transform the most. And it took me years to be even comfortable with doing the show and the work that I do and talk about it publicly. So, that's to know yourself, and that's showing up for yourself authentically, and a little bit of code switching along the way too, right? So, and I love that you said don't worry about the ums, because I'm really bad at saying all the time. I've done Toastmasters, I've done speaking classes, and get rid of the ums, and then like sometimes I'm just like, but I don't know what to say except for ums. So I appreciate you saying that. So here's a couple ums out there, just throwing some ums out there in today's interview. So,
and they're totally okay. And if you would allow me one note on the traveling and code switching, and I know we both mean the same thing. I do want to make one thing clear. When we are visiting other people's homes or other countries, it's one thing to code switch, it's another to disrespect someone's tradition. So I do want to make sure to be clear on that, where there are certain countries where certain tradition might be not looking, not making eye contact and not doing certain things. And that's just honoring and respecting where you are compared to the code switching. And there's a difference there. So I just wanted to make sure to point that out. Those are kind of two different things as well.
Yeah, good point. Good diamond. Because again, for all you travelers out there, international travelers, and I've traveled around the world, know where you're going, learn the culture of where you're going, learn even just the 5 basic words of hello, thank you, please. That's very important as far as understanding your place in the world and where you're going. So thank you for pointing that out. As far as the impact that you found, because you've coached over 1,000 speakers, and who've gone on, if I'm reading this right, have gone on to earn more than $30 million. How does this certification program that you do and you've established and you're the founder of it, how does the certification build on that legacy, and how does this create opportunities for others?
Yes. When I started realizing that it was working, I have a friend, we've been friends since the 5th grade, and she commented something on a social media post where I was just sharing receipts, like, boom, y'all, look at my clients' receipts. They booked these engagements, made this amount of money. And she commented and said, friend, it's working. And I don't think I had sat back to look at, oh my gosh, this really is working. And one of my clients said to me, because of working with you, I'm in a different tax bracket now. And what does that mean? She said, that means my son won't have to experience some of the things that I did growing up because of speaking. And I was like, wait a minute. So we can make impact and make money. And, statistics would say that, Black women make, like 70% on 70 cents on the dollar, and et cetera, et cetera. For me, it is you deserve to be paid a premium. And so we are not changing our numbers. If that person, your number is 15,000, your number is 20,000, and I can't pay that or be paid. Yes, you can. So with the speaker coaching literally is one of the reasons that I am able to live the way I live. I'm able to support my family and other people the way. Speaker coaching is the reason I was able to go on a 5-month sabbatical, traveling to 20 countries last year and not work. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I thought, this can't just be for me. This can't just be for me, because although I've done fairly well, I've probably given away more than what I've actually charged for, because one of my affirmations is I, Kristen, serve well and freely give. And if I am ever led to give a session, ever led to give discounts or give tickets to my events, I always do it. And people will say, are you afraid that you give away too much? I said, absolutely not. Ever, never, never. If I do anything with the energy of manipulation, absolutely, that's not me. So if I have for example, if I have a 5-step formula, I'm not going to give you 4 steps and say, but you got to register for my program to get the 5th. I think that's manipulation, because I'm going to give this all to you now, because if I'm a good coach, I cannot give you all that I have in 3 hours, because I should have 500 hours of content to teach, for example. So then with speaker coaching, I'm looking at this as an opportunity, not only for these amazing people who are speakers as well, to be trained under me, to become speaker coaches. And I know what it will do for them to help their clients. And they said this, they were like, I feel like this is ministry. This is healing work. Oh my gosh, the money is second to this, because I'm seeing the transformation in my clients, and they know that you'll be able to make income. So for me, it is freedom, financial freedom, the heaviness of, if any of us, I've struggled financially before, that just is a weight that is heavy. Sure. To know that this is an opportunity where they will be able to make income, impact. I have multiple clients who we've already made their six-figure plan for the next 12 months, and I said that's the minimum for some of you. Some of you may not want, may say, I only have this much to dedicate. What do you want to make? And I'm so grateful and excited to be able to do that. And it's just connected to heart and goodness and healing and kindness and freedom. That, you'll probably tell, that just makes me so excited because it's not money first, but you, as I tell my clients, if you work with me, it's not money first, but I will help you get your coins. I say that, like I will help you, but it can't be money first.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that perspective, because we share a lot of the same philosophies. I always remind my listening audience and my students that, we're the only species that pays to live here on planet Earth, if you think about it. And at the end of the day, you don't get to take any of this great stuff that you accumulate along your pathway, whether you're born rich or born poor, and everything you accumulate, you don't get to take it with you. And I always remind people, that the secret of life is getting paid to do what you love. And it sounds very much to me on my end that you love what you do, bringing joy, bringing healing, bringing transformation, bringing confidence, helping people step into their authentic self to know themselves. And that is the journey, because at the end of the day, listening audience out there, inspired listeners, the greatest commodity that you have while you're here is your time. Because at the end of the day, that's the only account we don't know the balance, and we don't know when that time runs out. So I always remind my listening audience that your greatest commodity is time, not money. And if you want to get paid money, go do something that you love and take this coaching program. She might help you get some coin, is what I heard you say, if I heard that correctly. So
love it.
So with any great coach, any great program, you've got to have a couple acronyms. In my journey of being coached through whether sports or education or medicine, there's always acronyms that come up, because that's a great way for people to remember things. If they're listening to this podcast and they're like, what's something that I could take away from this interview that you were talking about today? You've got to have some acronyms, or you've got to have some mantras that you could share with the listening audience today.
I do. I don't have any acronyms, but I do have sayings that I often say. At the graduation, my client surprised me and gifted me some things and shared words of encouragement that they called Dr. G isms. So apparently I have a lot of phrases, because there were 14 graduates and they all had a different phrase to tell me that I say. Mm-hmm. And my nephews were in the audience and they said, we knew all the phrases. And and one of my nephews said, so you're the same with your clients as you are with us? I said, apparently. I said, what do you think about that? He was like, that's pretty cool. I said, yeah, Jaden, I don't change. So one of my phrases is surrender the when and the how, which is very often, whether it is that relationship you want to be in, whether it is that speaking engagement you want, we focus so much on, oh my gosh, I need it to happen in 30 days or 60 days or by this time. But surrender the when and the how, and sometimes the who and the where, and trust the what. Trust that you know what it is you're supposed to be doing, and trust that. So surrender the when and the how. Something else that I will often say is, and we honor that. And what I mean by that is, if they say something, they know that if they ever come in and say a fee for a talk or a training they want to lead and it's too low, I'm going to give them the Dr. G look, and I'm going to say, and we honor that, and pick another number. Okay? I will say that. I very often say, I reject that. That's one of my biggest ones. I reject that. And what I mean by that is, if there's ever a statement or phrase or belief that is not in alignment with who I am, my purpose and destiny, I reject that. And I say that all the time. Nope, I reject that. Nope, I was actually in Delaware, the East Coast of the United States this past weekend. I have a movement called Candid Conversations for Men, which is a safe space for men to be seen, heard, affirmed, and celebrated. And I host these all around the country. And someone came up to me, and he was making a joke about something, but it wasn't funny to me. And so I said, I reject what you just said. He said, what? I said, I absolutely reject everything you just said. I know you're trying to be funny, but I do not play about this gift. I do not play about the gift I've been given to help these men walk in freedom, so I reject that. He said, well, can I shake your hand? I do not want to shake your hand right now, because you just made a joke that is not fun. So I'm just giving you an example of how serious I am when I reject that. And you already said the first one is, if your light is too bright, they can put on sunglasses. And the final thing that I often talk about is rest, and you deserve rest. You deserve soul level rest because when you're not rested enough, you are unintentionally disrespecting your gift. You're unintentionally disrespecting your audience. And the final one I'll give you, which is one of my main speaker coaching statements, is no winging it. That's my number one speaker coaching rule after authenticity and all that stuff is do not get on stage and wing it because that is disrespectful to the audience, gift, invitation, and craft.
I love that. And I knew that you had some isms to share with us, whether they were acronyms or isms. It's funny because my students, I have a weekly development group, and I get that all the time. The Marc isms. Oh, Marc would say this, and you don't really, when you're passionate and you love what you do, you don't really think about, because words matter, right? Thoughts become words, words become actions, actions is energy, and become habits and destiny and all that connection. But there's things when you're just so inspired and you're in the flow that you're not thinking of it as a mantra or as a Marcism. And then I'll hear it back, or with me being out of the country the last few weeks, I went back and watched the videos, and I would hear, oh, this is a Marcism, and so I'm just laughing as you're saying that because it makes so much sense. And I love that you promote taking, because one of my mantras one of my Marcisms is take the time to disconnect so you can make that time to reconnect to you in the human journey. Reconnect to your soul, your spirituality, your religion, whatever it is for your journey, but connect also to your higher self and give yourself rest, because that's also part of that mental health that we're learning more and more about. Technology and medicine, we're learning a lot about mental health, and we're how much we're exposed to on a daily basis. And that's why we see dementia and Alzheimer's on the rise at younger ages. And it's just too much overstimulation. So I always promote for the listening audience, use Dr. Guillory's website, her mantras, her isms, to take that time to disconnect, to make that time to reconnect, and get that rest. So thank you for sharing that, because I think that's very important in today's society, especially for the younger generation, because they just go and they don't unplug. They've even out of country, everybody was plugged into their phones. I was on the bus, I'm looking at beautiful countryside and castles from 2,000 years ago, and I look around and there's just people on their phone, just connected. Break that habit and stop connecting all the time. In fact, I just read an article that more you remember this before the smartphone was just the regular phones that you used to call and to text. They didn't have any of the social media stuff. They're actually seeing a rise in people going back to the old cellular phones without the social media and without all the smartphone technology. It's kind of interesting that we're kind of going back to simplicity to kind of get away from that constant 24-hour digital connection that we all seem to be going through. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your isms with us today.
Absolutely. And thank you for what you do in encouraging rest and unplugging. And just to add along with the conversation with rest real quick, rest, as we know, is not just taking a nap. I love that you said unplugging. Rest is I'm taking a moment to breathe. I'm taking a moment just to go have fun. I'm going for a walk. That's actually when people ask me, what's the most important thing people need to do who want to be a speaker? And I'll give a couple of things, but I'll say, believe it or not, the most important thing to do is to ensure that you have some type of guilt-free rest regime. And if you feel guilty, that's okay too in the beginning, but your rest is what allows you to deliver the information in a way that is embodiment and not just, and I'll give you a quick example. I have a lot of clients who lead on self-care. They talk about self-care for their trainings. And my question to them is, do you embody what you're talking about? Because the greatest billboard for your message is you. So if you are talking about rest and self-care and you yourself don't do that, it's going to come across. And that happens with me. When I lead trainings on self-care, compassion, fatigue, people come up to me and say, oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. And I'll say, thank you. What was your favorite part? And they always say, you. I say, okay, well, what about me? And they'll say, it was you. I say, okay. Thank you so much. Y'all didn't see my 30 slides on the spray on the screen. No. And what they say is, you're so tranquil. We know that you rest. You were our favorite part. And I thought, well, all righty then. Thank you very much. So thank you for encouraging rest as well.
Yeah, and it's important. And you're honoring your gift too. I always tell people to step away and get that, get that, 5 months of traveling abroad, get that 3 weeks in Portugal, get away from it all and find, the connection and get away from just all of the, I stand in the Atlantic Ocean in Portugal and let the ocean take my stuff out and allow it to bring my sparkle back, and make that time for rest and to honor your gift as well. That's a big part of that. So, I could talk to you for hours, but we always, again, we're back to that time. Time is our greatest commodity. So I want to keep going because I want you to talk about the impact beyond speaking. I want you to tell us about, I know you've coached over 1,000 speakers, have made more than 30 million, but what do you want this impact to go beyond speaking, and advice for aspiring speakers, people that may be listening to the show and have never spoken in front of anybody or have never been a podcast or been interviewed on a podcast? What advice and what coaching, with the time we have left, would you give to the listening audience?
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you. And yes, we could talk much longer. I know. What I would give to the person who you kind of want to speak, maybe it's not a huge desire of yours, or maybe a podcast, is to, number one, have some clarity on what you want to talk about. Have some clarity. The number one question I am posed from speaker clients is, don't ask me, how do I get opportunities? How do I get gigs? And my question to them is, what's your topic? And very often, well, I can talk about anything. And I said, I bet you can. Absolutely, I bet you can. And what is your main topic? What is it? And so for the person who is unsure, first thing is, what do you want to talk about? Is it your story? The next thing I would offer them is, if you want to share your story, what part of your story? Because you can't share it all in a short amount of time. And then third thing is, are you healed enough to share it? Unintentionally, there are a lot of people who are, there's a phrase that I heard from at an event, is there's a lot of people unintentionally who are bleeding on stages. They are sharing about their trauma and they're not healed enough yet. There's an idea that what you go through is for other people. Sometimes it's not for other people. Sometimes it's for you to heal and process through it. And to remember that if you're not healed enough yet, that's okay. There is something else that you can talk about too. And then the thing that you can practically try is call a friend and say, hey, I think I'm interested in speaking about my story. Can I just share my story with you and just get started? Like, literally just get started, and remember, your story is enough. Like, it's literally you. Just get started. And yes, there are things that you can join along the way to help you put it together, like working with someone like me, but it's you. And so I say, go for it, do it, ensure you are healed enough. And yes, beyond the money for my clients, the legacy for this is, I have to go back to the word freedom. It really is. It's knowing that I don't have to show up as anybody else but myself. I don't have to be a mini fill in the blank favorite speaker. You can fill in that, right? Fill in the blank. I don't have to be a mini blah, 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 whoever motivational speaker. You can show up authentically and exactly as who you are, and that is enough. And so on the financial end, I do hope that this creates financial legacy for my clients and other people who get to work. So financial legacy, financial freedom, as well as emotional freedom in the space. So I'm excited for it to continue going. So this is going to go on and on and on, where the people who just graduated from my first cohort are going to be coming on board to be some of the coaches in my certification program. So it's going to grow and grow and grow. And the desire is to make a significant impact in the public speaking world by adding in elements of heart and authenticity and healing and freedom, a little bit more than it currently is.
Yeah, I love that. And, hold on and get dragged, or let go and be free. The choice is always ours to make in this journey that we call life. Or, as you like to say, surrender the when and the how and trust the what. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today with us, your journey. Anything that you'd like to share, anything or anyone that inspires you before we close?
Thank you for asking. I would like to give a shout out. Yes, my grandmother, Billy Dove Washington, inspired me to have the voice that I have. My grandmother earned a master's degree in the early 70s when that was difficult for women and women of color. My grandmother was a part of so many different movements. My grandmother would use her voice and did not care if people disagreed with her. She started schools in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, and my grandmother knew what was right, for her, and I appreciate her voice. And the final thing that I do want to share for anyone who may be listening to this and you may have a desire to help an audience that you don't think you can connect to. So you are a man and you want to speak to women. You're a woman, want to speak to men. You are, whatever it is, I'm a woman and I have a movement called Candid Conversations for Men. I am a single woman who will be hosting a marriage conference next year. And what I've learned is sometimes seemingly the most unlikely person will be the person who was selected to make the significant impact. And so no need to have to identify and relate to every element of your particular audience. If there is something on your heart and you know you have this calling and pull to move in that direction, go and do it. Get up or move or send that email, go and do it.
Just do it. I love it. Dr. Kristen Guillory, thank you so much for being on with us today. You can go to her site, KristenGuillory.com. Again, all of our social media platforms have her information. And I'm just going to close with your quote. Keep shining. If your light is too bright, tell them to put their shades on. Thank you, my friend, for being a guest today on Inspired Living. Keep up the great work. Keep inspiring. And I hope to talk with you again on another episode here of Inspired Living.
Thank you so much. Same here.
So, listening audience, until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, wherever you're out in this world, dare to live and discover the diamond within. We'll see you next time here on Inspired Living. Take care, everybody.